I'm Joe. I'm your host and everyone's good friend.
And hey everyone, good morning, afternoon, evening, honestly, whatever time zone you're in right now. I'm Sunny. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. I am so glad you're here.
Yes, welcome back, Sip and Talkers. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, whatever gets your system running today. We usually keep things, pretty upbeat and fun around here, just shooting the breeze. But I have to take a real deep breath today because my heart is just a little heavy.
Yeah, it's a tough one today for sure.
It is. We're getting into a topic that hits incredibly close to home. Imagine, someone breaking into your computer, wiping your entire hard drive, literally intentionally melting your motherboard, right? And then they look you dead in the eye and convince you that you did it to yourself.
Oh man, just standing there saying, your hardware is just garbage and my software is completely fine.
Exactly. That is exactly what happened to our really good mutual friend, Micky. Except, it didn't happen to his laptop. It happened to his mind. He got entirely sucked into this vortex of psychological manipulation, which we're going to refer to today as PUA.
And honestly, Micky's situation has been this massive flashing red alert for all of us. Because if you know Micky, you know he is the ultimate independent spirit.
Totally.
Yeah.
He's adventurous. He's hyper-logical. The guy analyzes data for a living. He is the person we all go to when we need life advice or, when we're trying to debug some massive issue in our own lives.
Right. He's the fixer.
Yeah. And yet he recently found himself trapped in this severe, just suffocating cycle of control. At first, he genuinely thought it was just the other person having this quote-unquote passionate personality. But watching him go through this, watching his entire sense of self literally just shrink and systematically get dismantled, was honestly terrifying.
It really is terrifying. And that's why our mission today on Sip and Talk is to take Micky's incredibly painful personal experience and, turn it into a public warning system for you.
Yeah, we have to.
We want to break down the actual mechanics of this kind of psychological control so you can, identify the malicious code before it infects your own internal systems.
So to kick this off, I think we really need to redefine what we're actually talking about here because I don't know about you, but when I hear the acronym PUA, my brain immediately time travels back to the mid-2000s.
Oh yeah, the fuzzy hats.
Right. I think of these guys in fuzzy hats at bars doing cheesy magic tricks to get phone numbers. But watching Micky go through this whole ordeal, I realize the term has evolved so much. It is way more insidious now. It has nothing to do with bad dating etiquette.
No, not at all. It has evolved into something entirely different. The modern reality of this is that it's a highly systematic, calculated form of psychological control. The core objective isn't romantic pursuit anymore. It is total dominance.
Wow, total dominance.
Yeah, it is designed to methodically lower a person's self-worth, create this manufactured dependency, and just establish a clear hierarchy. It's essentially emotional ransomware.
Emotional ransomware. Man, that is such a perfectly terrifying way to describe it.
And just to be super clear, this malicious architecture isn't only restricted to romantic relationships. We see this exact same dynamic infecting workplace environments with toxic bosses, infiltrating friend groups, even serving as the baseline code for cult dynamics.
Okay, so here is the thing that really threw me for a loop, and it's something I've just been struggling to process. Like I said, Micky is brilliant.
He's a smart guy.
So how in the world did his internal antivirus software just completely miss this? I always kind of assumed, maybe ignorantly, that this kind of manipulation only really works on people who are, for lack of a better word, gullible, or maybe people who just lack critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Is this just a vulnerability for naive people?
I am so glad you asked that because that is honestly one of the most dangerous misconceptions out there. People think manipulation targets the intellect. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
No, not at all. This kind of emotional ransomware completely bypasses your intellectual firewall because it targets your fundamental human operating system. It goes after your core emotional needs.
So it's a hardware issue, not a software issue.
Exactly. It exploits universal hardwired biological desires. The human need for love, the need for validation, and especially that primal evolutionary fear of abandonment.
So you're saying it literally does not matter how smart you are, because the attack isn't even happening in the logic center of your brain.
Exactly. It is a brute force attack on your empathy. When someone triggers your primal fear of loss, your amygdala, which is the fear center of your brain, it just takes over. It essentially overrides your prefrontal cortex, which is where all your logic and rational decision-making live.
Jeez.
So it doesn't matter if you have a genius-level IQ, if you have a human heart and a functioning nervous system, you have the ports open that this malware can exploit. It literally weaponizes the exact traits that make you a good, trusting partner.
That is deeply unsettling, honestly. So if we want to help all of you listening run a diagnostic scan on your own lives right now, we need to show you how this malicious code actually operates in the wild.
We really do. Let's break down the tactics.
Yeah, let's look at what Micky actually went through.
Yeah.
Because looking back at how his relationship started, there was this insane whiplash. I remember him telling me that in the very beginning, this person made him feel like he was the only guy on Earth.
Classic.
Right. They were constantly texting, talking about this massive shared future within, like, weeks of meeting.
So that is the infiltration phase. Psychologists call it love bombing. It's how they initially gain system access. By overwhelming the target with intense affection and validation, they trigger a massive flood of dopamine in the victim's brain. You just get hooked on the chemical high.
But, and here's the crazy part, it didn't last. Almost in the exact same breath as those grand declarations of love, Micky mentioned they would drop these tiny, weirdly specific insults.
The microaggressions.
Yeah, they would say things to him like, you're pretty average looking, but I don't mind, or you're lucky I'm here, because literally nobody else would put up with your obsessive hobbies.
Wow. And right there, that is the injection of the malicious code. That tactic is known as nigging. In psychological and economic terms, it's a strategy used to artificially lower someone's market value.
It's so subtle, though. It's not this overt insult where you can just stand up and say, hey, that's incredibly mean, I'm out of here. It's disguised as a backhanded compliment. So it basically acts like a Trojan horse, right?
Precisely like a Trojan horse, because it's wrapped in a statement of saying, like, I don't mind, or I'm still here. The victim's brain gets completely confused. You don't process it as a direct attack, but it slowly starts corrupting your self-confidence files.
Wow.
You start subconsciously thinking, wow, maybe I am defective, and this person is actually doing me a massive favor by sticking around. The love bombing creates the high, and the negging creates the insecurity.
Which perfectly sets up the trap that I think really, truly broke Micky down. After a while, the affection just stopped being predictable. One day they were super hot, talking about being absolute soulmates, and then the next day they were just freezing cold.
Completely withdrawn.
Yes. Ignoring his texts, totally distant, Micky was constantly anxious, just desperately trying to figure out what the heck he did wrong to lose that initial high.
So what you are describing there is intermittent reinforcement. And neurologically speaking, this is where the dynamic gets incredibly dark.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, when you provide validation inconsistently hot one day, cold the next, you create the absolute strongest form of psychological addiction known to science.
It's like a slot machine effect, right?
It is exactly like a slot machine. The behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner proved this decades ago with his famous experiments on rats.
Oh, right, the levers.
Yes, the levers. So if a rat presses a lever and gets a pellet of food every single time, it only presses the lever when it's hungry. The behavior is completely logical. But if the rat presses the lever and the food only comes out randomly, sometimes on the first press, sometimes on the 50th, the rat will obsessively press the lever until it physically collapses.
Man, that is wild. And real quick, speaking of slot machines and investments, just a quick reminder to our listeners that we are definitely not financial advisors here. We're just pointing out behavioral data, folks.
Very true, but the psychology is the same. The unpredictability makes the brain crave the reward even more. The anticipation of the reward actually releases more dopamine than the reward itself.
So your brain becomes hyper-focused on solving the puzzle.
Exactly. You literally become addicted to the inconsistency. You keep pulling the lever, hoping for that jackpot of affection you got on day one, and you completely ignore the fact that you are draining your emotional currency on every single pull.
Your own brain chemistry is literally being weaponized against you.
Yeah.
That is wild. And this leads to what I think is the most devastating part of Micky's whole ordeal. He eventually hit a breaking point. The anxiety was just way too much.
Right.
So he tried to express that he's uncomfortable with how hot and cold things were. And instead of listening, the manipulator just stared at him and said, "You're too sensitive. You're completely overreacting. I never even said those things."
Oh, there it is. That brings us to the core mechanism of control, gaslighting. When they tell Micky he's too sensitive, or they just flat out deny reality, it is a highly calculated power move. In tech terms, gaslighting is the ultimate administrative override.
How so? Like, how does that work in the brain?
Because they are stripping away Mickey's fundamental right to define his own reality. They are intentionally invalidating his internal telemetry.
Oh, wow.
Think about it like this. If someone steps on your foot and you say, ouch, and they look right at you and say, your foot doesn't actually hurt, you're just being dramatic, they are demanding that you trust their version of reality over your own direct sensory data.
They are essentially saying, do not trust your own warning systems.
Right. And once you begin to doubt your own feelings, once you think your own perception is fundamentally flawed, you hand over the administrator password to your mind. You become completely dependent on them to tell you what is real and what isn't.
Which completely explains why Micky slowly stopped hanging out with us. He used to be at every Friday night dinner, every single one. But over the course of a few months, he just vanished. He was totally isolated.
Isolation is a mandatory feature of this kind of emotional ransomware.
Mandatory.
Absolutely. A manipulator knows that a strong external network is a massive threat to their control. If Micky is talking to you, his healthy friends, you act as a firewall. You can look at the manipulator's behavior objectively and say, hey man, this isn't right, this is toxic.
So they systematically sever those connections. They criticized us to Micky. They manufactured drama to make him feel super guilty for leaving the house until their voice was the only voice he was hearing. They basically disconnected him from the internet, so the only network he could access was their local server.
Exactly. That is a perfect way to put it. Once you lose your external reality checks, the manipulator's toxic voice literally becomes your internal monologue.
Okay, so this brings us to a part of Micky's story that I found incredibly frustrating, and I really need you to explain the psychology here for all of us. Micky is a problem solver.
Very much so.
Despite all this manipulation, his internal system finally flagged the malware. He had this moment of clarity. He woke up and realized, oh my gosh, I'm being PUA'd. This dynamic is incredibly unhealthy. So what did he do? He did what any rational, mature adult would do. He sat down to communicate.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. He brought logic. He brought specific examples of the behavior. He calmly explained his feelings. And the situation just got exponentially worse. Why? Why does bringing logic and communication to this kind of person fail so spectacularly?
Because it operates on a completely different psychological framework. And this is a cold, hard truth that is incredibly difficult for highly empathetic, logical people like Micky to accept. You cannot change a manipulator through communication.
But why not? I mean, if you just explain how their actions are hurting you, shouldn't human empathy just naturally kick in?
Well, when two healthy people communicate, the shared goal is mutual understanding and conflict resolution, right? You want to bridge a gap. But for a highly manipulative individual, especially those possessing strong narcissistic traits, communication is not about understanding. It is simply another arena for control.
So Micky was basically handing over his source code saying, here are all my emotional vulnerabilities. Here is exactly how you are hurting me. Please be careful. And the manipulator wasn't seeing a plea for empathy at all. They were just taking notes on where to strike next.
That is precisely what happened. If we look at the psychological profile of these individuals, their entire operating system is built on an incredibly fragile ego.
Wait, fragile? They act so confident?
It's a mask. They don't have a stable sense of self-worth, so to keep themselves feeling superior and safe, they have to constantly maintain a hierarchy where they are on top. Every time Micky tried to explain his feelings, he wasn't building a bridge. He was unwittingly handing the manipulator more ammunition to call him too sensitive and reinforce that hierarchy.
Man. It's literally like trying to fix a fatal hardware failure by typing in a basic software patch. You can sit there typing lines of logical code all day, trying to reason with the machine, but the motherboard is melted. You cannot patch a melted motherboard.
Nope.
You can't outlogic someone who fundamentally does not share your goal of mutual respect.
That is exactly the realization Micky had to come to. You cannot outcommunicate someone who is actively committed to misunderstanding you just to maintain their power. The only solution is to disconnect the hardware. Direct removal.
Okay, so let's move from the diagnostic side to the practical application. The firewall. Now that we've kind of reverse engineered how this psychological hack works, how do you, our listeners, build a robust firewall to protect yourselves? And for anyone wondering, how exactly is Micky managing his system reboot right now? Let's talk prevention first.
Prevention starts with completely changing the metrics you use to evaluate a good relationship. Our culture really romanticizes the roller coaster, the intense highs and the dramatic lows.
Yeah, the movies love that stuff.
Right. But you need to look for behavioral consistency. Healthy code runs predictably. If someone is causing massive latency issues in your life with constant drama, hot and cold behavior, and confusion, That is a glaring red flag.
It's about pacing, too. I think if someone is rushing the connection, if they're hitting you with, I love you, we're soulmates, let's move in together, on day 3, you got to hit the brakes. A secure connection takes time to authenticate.
Absolutely.
And fiercely protect your independent social circle. Keep your external connections active. Do not let anyone isolate you from your friends and family under the guise of, like, wanting you all to themselves.
That is so important. But beyond those preventative rules, there is one core metric, a golden rule, that acts as the ultimate diagnostic tool for any relationship in your life.
Yes, I love this metric. Everyone listening, if you are driving right now, keep your eyes on the road, obviously, but mentally highlight this. Ask yourself, does being around this person make you a better, more expansive version of yourself? Or do they leave you constantly anxious, small, and doubtful? Do they optimize your system? Or do they drain your battery and cause you to constantly second-guess your own reality? If you are constantly shrinking yourself to fit into their world just so they don't get angry, that's not love. That's a hostage situation.
It truly is a hostage situation, and escaping that is a really complex process. Micky is currently navigating what clinical professionals call the withdrawal phase because, due to a shared lease and some tricky logistical circumstances, he is actually still in physical proximity to this person for just a little bit longer while he finalizes his exit strategy.
Which is incredibly dangerous territory. But I am so proud of how he is handling this because he has activated a very specific set of defense protocols.
He really has.
The first thing I noticed was that Micky started carrying around this little black notebook. Every time they had an argument, he would immediately go to another room and write down the exact quotes, the time and the date. I thought he was just venting, but it's actually a tactic, right?
It is a brilliant defense mechanism called recording facts. Gaslighting only works if you rely solely on your memory, because human memory is malleable, right? It's easily manipulated under stress.
Well, there you go.
So Micky is acting like a secure system audit log. When the manipulator tries to rewrite history tomorrow and says, I never called you that name, you're making things up, Micky doesn't argue. He doesn't try to convince them. He just looks at his secure log. It neutralizes the cognitive dissonance entirely because he has an immutable ledger of reality.
He doesn't need them to admit to reality. He just needs to confirm it for his own sanity. That's huge. And the other thing he started doing was pinging us constantly. He'd text and say, hey, this just happened. They said X, Y, and Z. Am I crazy for being upset about this?
That is protocol 2, seeking third-party reality. Because his internal compass has been magnetically scrambled for so long, he is relying on healthy external anchors to validate his baseline reality. By reaching out to you, he is bypassing the local server and accessing the broader network.
And we provide the clean data back. We just tell him, no, man, you are not crazy. That behavior is objectively toxic. We are essentially his backup servers, feeding him clean baseline data. I love that.
It's vital.
Now, the third protocol is the one that fascinates me the most, but I actually want to challenge it a bit. It's called the gray rock method. Micky told me he's basically making himself as uninteresting, unresponsive, and emotionally flat as a literal gray rock on the ground.
Yep.
They try to start a fight and he just says, okay. They try to provoke him and he just stares blankly and says, I hear you, but wait. Isn't ignoring someone just another form of toxic communication? How is gray rocking different from the manipulative silent treatment?
That is a phenomenal question, and the distinction is entirely about intent and power dynamics. The silent treatment is an offensive weapon. A manipulator uses it to punish you, to make you feel anxious, and to force you to chase them to resolve the tension. They want a reaction. The gray rock method, on the other hand, is a defensive shield. You aren't doing it to punish them or elicit a reaction. You are doing it to protect your own energy.
I see.
Manipulators feed on emotional reactions, whether it's your tears, your anger, or your desperate attempts to defend yourself. They view all of it as supply. By giving zero emotional feedback, you are starving them of their fuel.
Wow. The silent treatment demands a response, while gray rocking shuts down the demand entirely. You are just refusing to participate in the chaos. Eventually, they get bored because the system isn't giving them the dopamine hit of control, and they move on.
Exactly. It's a defensive masterpiece. It takes incredible discipline to not defend yourself when someone is saying horrible things, but it protects your core processor until you can physically disconnect.
Taking this highly objective, almost technical view of human behavior really takes the emotional shame out of the equation. To wrap things up today, I really want to speak directly to anyone listening who might be feeling a pit in their stomach right now. Maybe you're realizing that the anxiety you feel every time your partner's name pops up on your phone, or the constant confusion you feel after talking to your boss, isn't actually normal. I want to assure you, this is not your fault.
It is not your fault at all.
If someone makes you feel worthless, if they make you constantly doubt your own sanity, trust your biological instincts. That anxiety is your internal alarm system going off. That is your core programming signaling a breach. A healthy relationship makes you feel free. It does not make you feel imprisoned in your own mind.
That is a profound truth. Recognizing the malicious code in others is absolutely essential for your survival and mental health.
So before we get to our final thought for the day, I want to remind all our Sip&Talkers to hit that subscribe button for the Sip&Talk podcast so you never miss a conversation that actually impacts your daily life. And a massive, massive shout out to our brave, incredible friend, Micky. We are so proud of the incredibly difficult steps you are taking to reclaim your system.
We really are.
For everyone listening, please do us a favor, head over to YouTube and search for his channel, Micky to Life. Go subscribe, check out his latest travel vlogs, drop a supportive comment, and let's back his journey to total freedom and an optimized life.
It's so important to support people as they rebuild. But as we close out this session, this conversation raises a slightly uncomfortable but deeply necessary question that I want to leave everyone with.
Uh-oh. Lay it on us.
We spend a lot of time talking about how to spot the hacker outside of us. But if we look closely at our own behavior and our own moments of deep insecurity or fear, do we ever accidentally use these micro-manipulations on the people we love?
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
It is. Do we ever casually nag our partners when we feel inadequate and want to bring them down a peg? Do we ever use the silent treatment, which is a form of emotional withdrawal, to punish a friend because we just don't know how to communicate our own hurt? Do we ever dismiss someone's valid feelings by telling them they're just overreacting, effectively gaslighting them to avoid taking responsibility?
Oof. That requires a level of honesty that is really hard to face.
It really does. Recognizing the malicious code directed at you is the first step, and it is vital for your safety. But examining our own code, auditing our own output, and ensuring we aren't planting bugs in the people we love, that is the ultimate system upgrade.
Let's let that thought sink in. Audit your own code, keep your firewalls up, take care of each other, and we will see you all next time on Sip&Talk.